Let's talk about rolling dice and claiming cards with the designer of Roll'n Bump. Welcome to Brains on Games. I'm Dr. Brian McDonald. In this episode, we're joined by... Who are we joined by?
Louis-Nicolas Dozois. Most people just call me Louis, though.
I know this guy as Louis, and he is a game designer who designed a pretty great game called...
Roll'n Bump.
There it is. Now, Louis just learned today that I have a copy of Roll'n Bump. He knew I had a copy of Roll'n Bump. He did not know I had the first edition of Roll'n Bump that I had before he and I met one another.
Yeah, because that edition is now like quite hard to find because it got two print runs, and this was like over 10 years ago, maybe over 12 years ago now.
No, you're
so
letting them know how old.
Well, it's a while ago now, so it's surprising to run into people who have that old edition.
Old school, the original. Roll'n Bump is a game. Now, this was a game I wanted to play because my wife plays. She does not like complicated games. She wants games that have a real luck component to it. She doesn't want to learn a whole bunch of rules. But Roll'n Bump is close enough to a game that she does like called Yahtzee, where you're rolling your dice 3 times and you're getting some points, maybe. Oh, it's so much better than Yahtzee, though.
I have so often when teaching the game to people, especially in like public contexts where you're at a convention or something, and you're meeting a lot of folks and you don't know their background or anything. And the first question I always ask is like, "Oh, do you know how to play Yahtzee? Do you know how to play Yum?" Like, okay, then you've got a starting point. And anyone who says like, "Oh yeah, I love Yahtzee," it's like, "Oh great. Well, Roll'n Bump is like Yahtzee, but you actually play together."
Yeah, it's not, because Yahtzee is sort of a solitaire game. You're rolling your dice, you're checking off your boxes on your score pad. Roll'n Bump is not like that. Instead, you've got a grid of cards on the table. You roll your dice like Yahtzee, and then you place them on the cards. So if you've got 3 of a kind and there's a 3 of a kind card, you can put your dice on there. However, you don't get the points for that roll because other people can steal those points if they roll a higher combination.
That's the bump part of Roll'n Bump.
Your dice can get bumped off your points, so you're only going to get to claim that card and claim those points if your dice are still there when your turn comes all the way back around.
Oh, and especially when you're playing at a full table. So this edition plays from 2 to 4 players, and it plays well at all the player counts, but the dynamic does sort of change. And when you're playing at a full table, it is so sweaty to have like a weak claim, like maybe you're on a 4 straight, but you've got like the 1, 2, 3, 4. That means you could be beaten by the 2, 3, 4, 5 or the 3, 4, 5, 6, and you're just watching everyone roll, and you're sweating, and you're hoping that it comes back around to you, and you can actually pick up the card.
You are involved in every roll. It's another person's turn, but they might be able to steal your points. The thing that I really like is that you've added that set collection mechanism where if you collect more cards of a certain color, because there are multiple different background colors on these cards, so there might be 3 of a kind that's one color and 3 of a kind that's another, and you're going to want a certain color to add to your collection so you can get bonus points at the end of the game. Very neat. Very neat game. Well thought out.
My hope with that was that it's equally viable to, say, get lucky and get a claim on a big card that is itself worth a lot of points, as it is to spread out your roll to these little single cards, which are each only worth 1 point, but they're easy to get large sets of. So when you're counting up your color bonuses, they can often make up for what you didn't get in big points. So someone can sneak in and be like, "Oh, wait a second, where'd you get all those points?" Like, "Oh, like all of my cards are red cards." Like, "Oh, damn."
Yes, it's such a neat game. I mean, you're kind of a mathematician to figure this stuff out. So I had it back in the day.
Spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Spreadsheets and a lot of data from playtests.
So we are right now at the Brains on Games Invitational Board Game Day. That's why we have a weird background instead of my board games from my basement. That's why there's 2 people sitting at the table instead of just me. And at previous events, sometimes some people call it BryCon instead
all
of the
call it
Brains
BryCon.
on Games, but it does have a Brains on Games sign on the door. Anyway, at previous events, Louis has brought some prototypes, and I was lucky enough to play kind of maybe a beta build, maybe not an alpha build, handwritten cards anyway, of the follow-up to Roll'n Bump that's only for 2 players.
Yes. So, Roll'n Bump plays great at 2. It's a nice light game. Like Brian said, like this really aims for bringing people into the hobby, being that one little bit meatier than say like straight Yahtzee.
Yeah, my wife would play this one.
Yeah, so like this gets your friends and family playing. And at 2 players, it's a great like after dinner game or whatever. But if you are a gamer and you're a fan of Roll and Bump or just a fan of like light 2-player games and you're looking for something with a similar feel but with a little more meat on the bones. Uh, so this is not what the product will look like.
It's very much a prototype.
Yeah, it's a prototype, but it is Roll and Bump Duel. Again, I'm not sure that's even the name that it's going to be published as.
It could have a different name.
It's the one that I think we're going with, but it's a 2-player only game. I was going to say a version of Roll and Bump. It's a 2-player game inspired by Roll and Bump.
Where you are rolling dice and claiming cards.
Yeah, there's still the rolling, there's still the bumping, there's still the card claiming. However, the scoring now has a spatial element where instead of just like, oh, I want cards in the color I already have to get a big color set, now you're actually building a tableau of cards by the end of the game where you're scoring based on the point cards you got and the color cards you got, and placement in the tableau matters. And then all of this gets further enhanced by the spice of the new bonus cards. So in Roll and Bump, there's the mechanic of the bonus die. So there's a die that you can claim that helps you get some of the better cards. That is replaced in Roll and Bump Duel by the bonus cards, which are cards that during play you can use for special card powers that are on the card. They're the sort of things where you might be able to turn a die to the face you want and get that big combination, or you might be able to block one of your claims from being bumped. Or there's a reverse of that. There's a card that lets you bump someone's claim even if your claim is weaker. So they're very powerful.
I won the play test with that card. So my opponent was so mad.
They're powerful cards that you'll want to play. However, it's a sweaty dilemma every time because every one of these cards at the bottom has bonus scoring if the card hasn't been played at the end of the game.
Right.
So that brings another dimension to the way you build your scoring tableau and what cards you decide to take and where to put them, because you'll have bonuses for say having cards of a certain color in a row. So then if you have that, you're trying to get like oh I've got the card that gives me bonus points for blue cards in a row. So now you're trying to get the blue cards and trying to make sure that you can put them in the row.
That's a new addition because when I played, the bonus cards had points at the bottom, but we weren't really working with the tableau yet. So it's something that's been added.
It's all incorporated into that tableau building aspect of the game. If you're learning the game, there's like a basic setup that you can use where instead of using the bonus cards, you do use a bonus die.
Okay.
The same way as in the original game.
Where you used to, if you had leftover dice that you couldn't use, you'd almost bid on that bonus die. You just place them by the bonus die to see if maybe you'd have a chance of getting an extra die you could roll in the next
it ends up like an extra die to roll. So you're rolling with 6 dice and playing 5 of them, giving you a better chance at those big combinations. So that is still part of Duel as sort of like a stepping stone to the full fat, meaty, yummy version with the bonus cards.
Right.
And the tableau building and all of that. Oh my goodness! So I'm really looking forward to playing the new version. I haven't tried it yet. Every time I've been teaching other people games, and I've set up a game of Harmonies and a game of Foundations of Rome, and I'm
Ooh,
looking
I
forward
just
to.
played my
Yes.
first game of Foundations of Rome. Man, deceptively simple because it looks like such a big, crunchy table hog. And you're like, oh wait, no, it's I do one thing on my turn. The things you can do are quite simple. And then you realize like, oh no, the consequences of my action. And then like by like mid game, you're realizing like, oh, if I'd have played this differently, if I put this here, oh, what are they going for? How is this going to help? Oh,
And super modular, and you can customize it. And like, we didn't play with stealing people's properties.
oh, heaven forbid. Heaven forbid.
That would have been great.
Oh.
So we played a whole bunch of games today, but I haven't had a chance to play this. So I am looking forward to trying out Roll'n Bump Duel, or whatever it's going to be called later. But for now, it says Roll'n Bump Duel prototype on the box. Louis, thanks for coming on the show today.
Well, you're very welcome. And if what wasn't clear, Roll'n Bump Duel has been signed from Boom.
Boom.
Again, just like original Roll'n Bump, and it's currently going through those paces. So a little like insider baseball thing. Publisher gets their hands on it. They start doing their own play tests, and
Is it going to be direct to retail? Do you know? Is it going to crowdfunding? How's that? How's it going to show up on people's shelves or in their homes? Do you know yet?
as far as I know, it'll be direct to retail. That's Boom works that way. They're affiliated with a distributor, so they have their relationships with retailers and things. It's not out yet.
Do we have an estimate of when it might?
No, because there are so many unknowns. This edition of Roll'n Bump, which is very like, well, I was going to say easy. I don't know that it's easy to find, but it is available across Canada.
I found it in a little souvenir shop.
Oh.
Actually,
Cool.
just in this small town, I found a copy in a souvenir shop, and my son was looking for a game that he could play with his girlfriend's family, and of course I saw this, and I picked it up for him.
So yeah, distribution is great across Canada. We have a partnership with Gigamic in France, who are distributing a version there, and the publisher Boom continue to talk to other publishers for partnerships in other regions.
Is it available in the U.S.?
It is. We don't have a publishing partner in the U.S. yet. Talks continue. However, I mean, you're not that far. There are a number of retailers near the border who carry it. I had a fan. This is surreal. This does not happen to people like me in my position. I had an honest to goodness fan come up to Montreal from Vermont.
Oh wow!
When I was doing a learn to play meet the author thing in Montreal.
That's so much fun.
Oh, of course, because if you're curious, and you're not in one of the regions that is well served, the game is available on Board Game Arena, and you can play all sorts of great board games online. Many of them for free, including Roll'n Bump. So you can familiarize yourself. And what I was getting at with that, it's so she had been playing on Board Game Arena. We were basically a year late with this one because of all of the supply disruptions during the worst of the pandemic. So our version on Board Game Arena ended up being like out there and playable for like about
Before the
months
game.
or a year before
game
the new
came out.
edition was actually available.
Yeah.
Roll'n Bump Duel, we've talked about late this year, early next kind of thing, but
Okay.
do not quote me on
Everything
that.
is up in the
Yeah,
air
yeah.
still.
Like until manufacturers get involved and
But soon in the scheme of things.
but soon, yeah, in
in
the
a
grand
geological
scheme,
timeline.
yes, like between now
And the
and
sun's
the inevitable heat death of the universe, it's extremely soon. Extremely soon.
Well,
At any moment.
at
it
any
could-
moment now, really.
Some moment.
Yeah.
We won't say which moment. Okay, Louis, if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, if they had questions about Roll'n Bump or Roll'n Bump Duel or whatever other projects you're working on, how would they find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky. I am Louard, Louard, on games. I also have a blog of the same name where you can follow. I'm also a video game developer as a day job, if you will. And you can read about some of that stuff and some of the board game stuff on there. And increasingly, people are finding me on Board Game Geek as Louard, Louard, and on Board Game Arena under the same name.
there you go.
Because there's a chat feature and everything. So those are, yeah.
Louard, you're all over the place.
I am apparently all over the place.
Well, and if you have questions for Louis, aka Louard, apparently, I just learned this, you can, of course, leave them in the comments section below this video, or you can email me at brian@brainsongames.ca. Brainsongames.ca is the website. That's where future episodes will go. Previous ones are already up there. Brains on Games is the X handle and the Blue Sky feed and the Facebook page and the Instagram feed. We're all over the place. And if you enjoyed this video, you want to be notified of future ones, you can head on over to YouTube, click that subscribe button. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you next time.